What's up, guys? It's Techno Viking 23 coming to you today with some more commentary about Destiny regarding the Taken King expansion. And today we're actually going to be discussing why all of the whole deal with Bungie with locking out year one content and locking out year one players if they didn't buy the DLC is just bad news for everybody involved. Even those of us who purchased the Taken King DLC, we're getting a bad deal because of Bungie deciding to make year one content completely irrelevant. So first of all, I wanted to address the thing. I agree with everybody out there who says that if you didn't buy the Taken King DLC, that you're getting screwed over because you can't really do much in Destiny anymore. I think this was a huge slap in the face to a lot of players of Destiny from Bungie and Activision. And I honestly think it's just a cheap cash grab again for them. They want to try to force people to have to buy the DLC. This is nothing new from Activision. This is nothing new from Bungie, at least the Bungie that we know now. I have never seen a company before who has basically said after a game has been out for a year, we're going to put out some DLC for this game. And if you don't buy this DLC, you can't really play much of the game anymore. As you know, with Destiny early on, when they released the Dark Below and when they released the House of Wolves, both times they did that. If you did not purchase either of the DLC expansions, you could actually continue to play Destiny and continue to enjoy the majority of the in-game content in terms of the Nightfall, in terms of the weekly heroic strike. Just as long as those weeks it was not a DLC strike that was being featured. You could also access a lot of the new gear and still play most of the PvP and still enjoy quite a lot of content. But now, if you have decided not to purchase the Taken King, you really can't do much of anything. You're locked out of a lot of in-game stuff. You can't even play any in-game stuff. You can't even reach the end game. You cannot level to level 40. And again, with those prior expansions, even when they raised the level cap, you still had ways to achieve that even if you did not buy the DLC. So overall, this was a terrible move on Bungie's part. And the thing is, too, if you have a lot of people who are maybe on the fence about buying the Taken King, for them to see how they've now been cut out of a lot of activities, that's probably going to leave a sour taste in their mouth and probably make them not want to purchase the DLC because it's just Bungie screwing players over yet again. So I completely sympathize with those people, and I don't want to hear the whole, oh, well, if you don't buy the DLC, you're not supporting the game and blah, 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 all the crap the so-called desticles are throwing out to defend Bungie's decision. Again, I've never heard of or seen a gaming company that has put out a game. You play the game for a year, and then if you don't buy a certain DLC pack, you can't play the rest of the game or play the game that you've already paid for, and they're taking stuff away from you. And I'll use MMOs because a lot of people love to compare Destiny to MMOs, even though this game is not an MMO. It doesn't even have a fraction of the content you get with a typical MMO. I played World of Warcraft for years, and when the game came out, they of course released the Burning Crusade, was the first major expansion. They also then released Wrath of the Lich King after that. Now, both times those expansions came out, I had just gotten out of college when I was playing World of Warcraft, and I was kind of living paycheck to paycheck, had a job that wasn't paying me a whole lot, but right out of college. And I had obviously the first bit of WoW and played that for a long time. And then the Burning Crusade came out, and unfortunately at the time I did not have enough expendable income to pick up the expansion. Well, I wasn't locked out of doing a lot of content I had been able to do up to the point that the Burning Crusade came out. I was still able to do everything that I could on day one that I bought when I played World of Warcraft. And then I eventually was able to get the Burning Crusade. And then the same thing with Wrath of the Lich King. When it came out, I wasn't able to pick it up right away. I could still play every single thing that I paid for in the game from the first year. So that's just using a comparable situation. A lot of people keep saying, oh, it's just like an MMO, and MMOs do this. Those people that say that thing, I'm pretty sure they've never actually played an MMO in depth. So I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts out on that because I know a lot of people were asking me what I thought about the whole deal with them locking out stuff for year one players who didn't pick up this DLC, and I think it's bullshit. I think it's absolutely terrible. I think it's a horrible decision by Bungie and Activision. And it's like I said, if they had some players who might have been on the fence about playing Taken King, they've probably pissed a lot of those players off with this decision and driven them away from the game, which is completely fine. That's a great decision to make if you don't support what Bungie and Activision do. So moving on, though, I also wanted to discuss why the whole leaving behind year one content was a terrible decision by Bungie and Activision, even for the people who bought the Taken King. Now, I've been playing the Taken King quite a bit since it came out because I want to give you guys, my objective opinion and let you know what's good and bad about it. And while there are some really good things about the Taken King expansion, I'm starting to see there's a lot of the same old typical crap that goes on with Destiny that's going to wind up making this expansion suffer a bit in the long run. And the first thing I can tell you guys right now is I'm noticing that they're really, at the end of the day, is not a lot of content to play in the Taken King. The questing system, it's very repetitive, it's very grindy, and you wind up 90% of the time you're going back and playing more of year one content. You're going through the same areas again. I got really excited when I got to the reef and Varix had some new quests for me. I'm thinking, oh man, I get to play against the Fallen on Mars. This is going to be really cool. And then I got there and discovered that it was basically just going through all of the old Cabal areas from year one. They had just put Fallen in them instead of Cabal. Even when you fight a new version of Sepix Prime, he's actually, you go back right to the spot where you got the Gate Lord Eye charged, and you fight him in that little arena area. It's the same exact thing. I've never seen a company that's been able to stretch the year one areas they put in the game so thin. It's just amazing. They continue to find ways to reuse the same stuff over and over again. With House of Wolves, you just played stuff backwards. With Taken King, they're a little bit less blatant about it. They're just like, oh, here you go. You're just playing the same stuff again with different enemies in it. So I think it's bad in that they eliminated most of the year one stuff. Prison of Elders now is irrelevant. Vault of Glass is irrelevant, which is a real shame because Vault of Glass was a great piece of content. The Crota raid is irrelevant, and I think that's terrible. Of course, all your year one gear is irrelevant as well. And I think one of the problems we're going to have with Taken King, which I'm doing a separate video on, is I believe we're going to have a large content void after a couple of weeks. After you played Taken King for 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to be the same thing as House of Wolves. It's going to be like, what do I do now? What are we going to do for the next 4 to 5 months while we wait for the next DLC, which is probably going to be overpriced and lacking lots of content, just given Bungie's track record. So my thought is, think about this for a second. How great would it be if Bungie had, instead of being lazy, had decided to update all of the year one content, Vault of Glass, Crota's End, Prison of Elders, so that it rewards level 40 and light level appropriate gear for being level 40 and whatever your level is in Destiny with the new RNG system. How awesome would it be if you logged on to the Taken King expansion, and you could go back and play the Vault of Glass at a current, like at a level 40 at light level 260 or something, or go play Crota's End again with appropriate raised level rewards. Think about if we had all the year one armor and weapons and things that we could combine with what's in the game now, and with things being a little bit more balanced. Think about how much variety you would have. Think about how much armor variety you would have. Think about how much weapon variety. You wouldn't see everybody running around with the exact same combination of gear. And one of the problems I'm seeing with the Taken King now is that you're having to chase light level again. So you're stuck using certain pieces of gear unless you get enough stuff to infuse the things that you like, which is an option, but that takes a while. For the most part, as you're going through the game right now, trying to get to that point where you can run the raid, you're basically just stuck picking a piece of gear that you have that's very high level, and you have to use that. And then when you get something else that's a little bit higher, you have to equip that. There's not really a lot of variety now, especially with the class items now. Instead of being able to wear whatever you want and it looks cool, you've got to equip the class item that has the highest amount of light so that your Guardian will be effective in the content. But think about if that wasn't the case. Think about if we had all the year one gear, all the year one weapons, everything from year one was available to play at the same time, at the same level as the Taken King content. There would actually be a good amount of content to play, and you'd have a variety of things to do. I honestly, the other day, was thinking about going in and playing Prison of Elders, and I'm like, well, if it's still at level 28 or whatever, and it's not dropping items that I'm going to be able to use, what's the point? But if they had a Prison of Elders where I could go in and play it, and it was light level 240 or 260, you could have it raised appropriately as you go through the different levels of Prison of Elders. That would be a lot of fun, especially if it continued to drop, new gear and new items and exotics and things. And, you're still getting keys from Petra and Varix, so why give us keys if we really have no point of using them? They should have instead brought all the year one content up to a year two level and given everybody the chance to play it all. That would have been a lot better idea than what they've done with the current setup with Destiny right now. And another thing, too, what kind of actually started me thinking about this was I was doing one of those new Taken Champion patrols where, where you have to go to Mars or Venus or Earth or wherever, and you have to wait around, and then the Taken will spawn in, and after you kill enough lieutenants, it'll bring in this big Taken boss that you have to take down. Those are actually pretty enjoyable, but the problem is they take a while to spawn, and if you're in the zone by yourself, they can be very difficult to complete because they're on a timer, and if you don't get the boss killed fast enough, they'll just go away, which is very frustrating. It's driving me crazy because a lot of times I'll be in zone by myself, and I'll get the boss down to like a little sliver of health, and then they take and just leave. Like, it's just so annoying. So I was going to make a video on the patrols and how they could improve those, but instead I'm going to talk about it a little bit here because one of my thought processes was how awesome would it be if you could go into patrol right now and you would still have the Blades of Crota spawning, if you still had the Wolf Champion patrols spawning, in addition to the Taken Champion patrols. That would be freaking amazing. Think about that. You're on Earth, you're in the Divide, and a Blade of Crota, the Crota guys start their little ritual. So you go and you kill those guys, you get the sword, and then the fallen champion guys come in, and you go fight them, and you've got a sword, and then one of your buddies can grab the Scorch Cannon, and then you can go fight the Taken come in at the same. I mean, it would be absolute chaos, and it would be amazing. Um, that would be more along the lines of some of the patrol options that are in a game. I don't know if you guys have played it. Rift 2, which is an MMO, has some really awesome open world experiences. They've got a really good thing with this Taken Champions thing. It just needs to be adjusted a little bit to make it a little bit better. But I think it would be amazing if all the year one stuff was still there. If you still had the Blades of Crota, if you still had the Wolf Pack coming in their little skiffs and dropping down their Scorched Cannons, and then everybody is just fighting everybody, and it's just absolute chaos, and it's absolutely awesome. And then, hey, a public event might even come down during all this. But those have been some of the most fun times in Skywatch, where you're sitting there, you're doing a war sat, and then Urzok the Hated comes in, or the Fallen drop in. It's like, the more stuff like that in the game, the better, to make it more of a variety of experiences. And so I think on a whole bunch of levels, Bungie is really missing out by not having the year one content be relevant in year two, because it would just give us a lot of things to do. And I think they're really missing out on that. I really hope that they're making plans to go back and give us an updated version of Vault of Glass and Crota's End and all that other stuff. But I seriously doubt that's going to happen, because Activision probably doesn't want to spend that money to bring that content forward. And again, we'd still have much better variety in weapons and gear if we still had all that year one stuff available to us. So I think it just overall would be a much better idea if they had not left year one players completely out of it if they didn't buy the DLC. And also if they had brought all the year one stuff up to the year two level, so even those of us who did purchase the DLC could still go back and enjoy a lot of that content. So that's pretty much it, guys. Just wanted to get my thoughts out there on that. Like I said, I do think it is complete crap that Bungie has alienated a lot of the year one players who did not decide to pick up the Taken King. I think that's just bad in so many ways, and it's really tough really tough decision they made, and really stupid decision also, because like I said, at the end of the day, that you're probably irritating a lot of people who might have been thinking about picking up the DLC, and now they're probably too upset at your decision you made, and they're probably not going to pick up the DLC in general. So one thing I'll always advocate for in games like this is more variety is always better. More content is always better, instead of the limited, lackluster content we continue to keep getting from Bungie. At least if we had all the year one stuff here now, we'd have a lot more stuff to continue to play to keep us interested. So anyways, guys, that's my thoughts. Would love to know yours down below, so please leave me any comments if you like. And one thing I will say is I've been having some issues with YouTube lately. It seems like it doesn't let me respond to everybody's comments. It only lets me respond to certain comments. So if you left a comment and I didn't get a chance to respond to it, more than likely I'm trying to, and for right now, for whatever reason, it's glitched out, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Either way, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I'll see you again next time.